Joe Rogan show and wherever they are, they're not going to be the best when it comes to explaining conspiracy theories.
Well, I think they're pretty good when it comes to just non for like a your average American. They explain it pretty well. I understand that it may not be at a very high academic level, but I think it's better than most things that you'll find in American media. Generally,
Yeah,
in
it
American,
is good. It's good for what it is. I'm just saying that when it comes to people being united and shit, like it's always gonna be a group because the media is gonna just keep playing stuff. That's when they turn into your enemies because they're playing into like these ideas, right? And they become constricted into them. So in that way, I'd say, like, in that way, I'd say that it kind of makes more sense to kind of live in your own world and accept it for what it is, I guess.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. But that's also because like I'm kind of used in between sometimes. So it kind of makes things, I get a little angry towards it. I mean, towards the media in general. But that's also because like I'm kind of like I don't have a spot anywhere, and I'm just sort of like uh, in the middle of everything.
What do you mean you don't have a spot?
I mean, like I don't like it's just sometimes I get like mentions and stuff like on YouTube and everything, but it's always something that either hard to spot for someone else watching it at the same time, or maybe they don't get it, or maybe the people who are saying it at the time like sort of sound like they're saying it in another time zone or timeline. It's kind of weird because if I was to live in America just now or maybe 2 years ago, I kind of noticed that things are not what they seem because you know like you can't have like everyone possibly knowing things fully and still being the extent of what they are. So I find it kind of weird. There's something amiss going on because no one would like even around people in real life. I feel the same way. It's sort of like there's some sort of gap almost.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
How do you think they took the dead internet? Who like had you talked about the dead internet theory on on the internet prior to it, or is it just something that you had thought of?
No, it's just something I got up on IR
Oh, okay.
because I believe it actually happened. I believe there was like some sort of mass gateway that brought us into the the beginning of everything and also the end. So you can call it conspiracy, but it's kind of weird. Like the
Yeah, I don't use that term.
we all come into God or
I don't.
something.
I
We all
don't.
come into
I
God
don't use that
spiritually.
term because I feel it's an ad hominem attack. It dismisses what anybody ever has to say when you throw that word into it. So what I don't
Yeah,
consider
yeah,
it that. I just consider it perhaps if you want to define it as that, that's an agreement between more than one person or two or more people to commit a criminal act, which I think happens all the time. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
I'm not I don't dismiss your opinion at all. I think that
You're,
if you
you're
talked about it,
we live in like a no man's land right now here in Mumbai. Because it's sort of like time is just like kind of passed everyone and no one really knows. Like there's no guesses on uh, what is going to happen, or if anything is going to happen, or if anyone's involved. It's just like a sort of, uh, it's like a sort of extinction kind of feeling. Um, this relates to the exact reason I think why, Rabbi, I was thinking about
Okay. Okay. I think so. I think you're getting it. Okay. Well, perhaps that's the way. Who knows? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Okay. 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 Pardon me? Uh, I I think he's just chilling. It's never made sense to me. That's why I left the people. be honest with you, Frosty, I don't know anything about that, so I'm not the guy to come to for information on just because it's polytheism. Do I have any chronic complaint? Yeah, I go viral. Aside from that, lighting candles each night, and I watch Eight Crazy Nights every year, every night. So that's like an Adam Sandler movie. That's what I do. How about you? Do you have big holiday plans? Is that the one with the little Furby looking things, right? They can't get them wet. When I was really little, that always scared the shit out of me. That scared me. ET scared me. That kind of shit is bonkers. So I should probably get another once every now and then. I really can take it. I remember you were saying, Frosty, you were looking forward to getting a computer. Is that still in the plans? I sure hope it is. And if I could buy you a computer, I would. And you're saying, well, you got all these computers. Trust me, they probably can't run what you want to run. But I really hope you do get that computer you want. Yeah, I mean, I've now watched a lot of Joe Rogan's. Not that I've seen every single one of them or heard every single one of them, but um, I would say, well, especially when he just went to Spotify, I basically didn't watch him for like 3 years. I used to watch him all the time. Then he went to Spotify, and only if he had like a really good guest on would I listen to him. And then he went back to YouTube. But now that he's back on YouTube, I really feel like that he would not have had the same effect in the United States presidential race if he wasn't on YouTube. That had such a big when he was just on Spotify, he was more of a mediocre voice. But now he's back on YouTube and everybody can catch him just like that. And I think that's the way to go. I love some things about him where he's a very logical person. And if he's able to, he got this $250 million deal at Spotify. And instead of getting greedy, he just said, look, let's do another $250 million one. But I want to be able to put my shit on all of the different platforms. Spotify was like, cool. I mean, that's amazing that they've been so, and smart of them because by getting Joe Rogan, they basically have created themselves as the capital of the podcast world. he's someone who I don't want to say he's a one man show, but he does have like a manager and he's got an agent, but he could make so much more money if he wanted to. He could be the Rock when it comes to like an action hero if he wanted to. He could be he could go do Fear Factor again, make that a huge show again. He could make his own sitcom. He could do what Tony's doing. I mean, he kind of he knows he could do all that shit. He doesn't want to. That's what I like about him. He just wants to basically create the capital of comedy in Austin, Texas, which he's done. And then on top of that, he has a few things that he does, and he's like world class at that. He's the best podcaster in the world. He's an excellent television host. He's an excellent comedian. Like that right there's a trifecta. But on top of that, he's like an excellent pool player, an excellent archer, and he's like really, really into UFC. I haven't even mentioned UFC yet, and like he's like the best UFC announcer they could have ever wanted. So um, okay, he's good. Goodbye. Hey, Casper, can you hear me? Casper, can you hear me? Casper, can you hear me? You're good. you um, so I was just reading. You watched the fight on Netflix? Is that correct? Did it freeze on you or did it stall on you? Okay, but you didn't have to pay extra for it. Maybe it was just included. Very cool. Because there were so many people complaining about it, like how it was operating. I mean, I get it. Um, I was able to watch it on Antonio Brown live stream. I've seen this. I actually fucking hate this. I've seen this type of technology analogy that I so basically there's a graphic designer on Twitter, and he comes up with ideas that are like what Apple should do with their phone. And I've seen one thing that I think they will implement. It's a concert mode so that your phone does not allow for live streaming or recording when it senses that you're in like a perimeter of a concert. How bullshit is that? Yeah, I know it makes sense. It makes a great idea. But to anyone in the world of piracy who sails the seven seas, it sucks. Uh, I went to a couple of years ago. I went to the Rolling Stones at SoFi, and I didn't live stream it, then, but I recorded it. And I know people. I mean, it's not like I was sitting there with the phone above my head blocking anything to view. I had the phone just like this, like I was bootlegging a movie in the '90s. But they make fun of people for saying like, "Oh, who the hell would want to watch uh, a a concert after you've already been to it?" I want, I, and like 50 years from now, I think that's gonna be cool as fuck. And anybody else would think perfect, exactly. Or Wembley, at Wembley, you mean? But yeah, same shit. I know. Yeah, exactly. So I kind of saw it as the same way. Like, this is the Rolling Stones. This is one of the perhaps last concerts. Now that was years ago, but it's like something that you want to preserve. And I don't understand. Well, I do understand. You get like you. There's a lot of gaslight that happens in this world. And you get the consensus to be, oh, that's rude or that's bad or why would you ever want to do that? And then people don't do it so that they're able to, that these massive companies can sell box sets and special edition concert CDs or whatever, not streaming, whatever. But I could see that happening in the future when you can't stream when you're at like a football game or a sporting event or a concert. And like you said, it is a good idea. And I don't know why they don't do it already. Yeah. I know it's I know it doesn't necessarily pay for this, but you know, um, like Banner and Drive. I don't understand why they don't have like, hey, do you want to watch Netflix for free? Cool. You just have to have a banner ad going all the time. Yeah, I mean, just like, or even like in exchange, I'm about free, and not just because I like to date, but I think that when something is free, it has mass appeal. Then you can say to anyone, hey, did you see XYZ? Oh, yeah, I saw XYZ because it was free and it's easy to get. Instead of like, hey, did you see this random thing on Cinemax? And yeah, you got to have like Cinemax Pro. Like, dude, nobody fucking watched that. What are you talking about? Like, oh, because it was, yeah. And um, I'm just, I'm of the belief that if you give away the content, the merchandising is really where you make money. So for someone like Taylor Swift, I would say to her, look, girl, give away your music. Don't make people bet, or whatever. Give away your music because then when you have a concert series, your prices are going to be thousands of dollars and your merchandising is going to be XYZ, like huge amounts, like Star Wars. Star Wars didn't make that much, like in today's day and age, when it comes to the box office take. But the merchandising is like, I mean, Star Wars is a religious movement. Jedi is a recognized religion that grows every single year. So that's like a smart move, I think, to give away your content and then allow, and you can recoup it times 10 on merchandising and ticket sales and things like that. Right. And, and I think we'll see a world which is what I don't want, which is, hey, you have to pay, and on top of that, we're going to show you ads. Well, what the fuck? That's basically goes against what the theory is of open air waves. That's not open air waves. Open air waves. Air waves, I should say. Um, like we privatized all these things, but it used to be a big deal for it still is, but like for a television station to have their broadcasting license. And if you didn't like what they did, you could write to them and you could write to the FCC and say, I don't want them to have their license renewed. They would have to take that seriously. But now that things are like streaming and everything, they're not technically using the airwaves of the public and they can do whatever the hell they want. I just don't like I don't like the haves and the have-not system that we have. And I think it's in our best interest to give away the content and you recoup everything on the back. But that's just how.
Everything's black and white. It's like you're living in a movie or something. But like the story was about having an artist and like they came to understand the world quite differently, and you can see a lot more shadow and light. And I like to start paying attention to different detail. But I mean, it's just mind blowing that can happen. It's like the same brain.
Yeah, same brain.
And then you have to completely readjust your experience of reality because now you see the world differently.
I have a friend who got a concussion and lost his sense of smell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for years.
That's probably pretty traumatic.
Well, a lot of people got during COVID as well.
Yeah, that's right.
But he got through a concussion like way back, like at least 15 years ago, and lost his sense of smell.
Yeah, that's crazy. I like to, when I started thinking about how people think differently, I was like, I think I was listening to a podcast running one day, and it's like, like imagine an apple, and I would taste the apple, and I was like, I can imagine an apple, I can see an apple in my brain, and I can bite into the apple, but I cannot taste it. I cannot imagine tasting food. And this was really perplexing to me because like I never thought about the fact that like inside my head I don't have taste. I only have taste when I'm eating food. I can definitely taste things, but it's like like it's a weird thing about my brain. But like I don't know how common that is. But I think like everybody has things like that. And if like we just do experiments with our own minds, it's kind of interesting to poke the boundary of like things you take for granted that you think you can do and you can visualize and you just can't. It's just not in your head.
Well, the sense of smell we take for granted because everybody has it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have evolutionary advantage in terms of food being rotten,
right.
different factors, gases that are poisonous, but it's invisible.
Yeah.
And
do you know if your friend can still imagine the smell, or do they lose the ability to even like recall what smells?
Out of about 20 years after a child. I don't even know if he got a smell back.
Yeah, I just be
sure. Yeah, he used to fight in the UFC.
Oh, I see.
And he got knocked out once and lost his sense of smell.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. Not good.
Crazy. Yeah, no, that's
not good. Not good.
Yeah.
But the idea is that sense of smell, we all just take for granted. We have it. We all know smell apple pie.
Asking to UFC 309s today. Did you know UFC 309s tonight? We're gonna do our best to stream it, so I'll be doing that with well, in the yeah. So you ready for that? It's I think John Jones is fighting for the first time in like forever. You know who John Jones is, right? Yeah, so like arguably, in my opinion, my opinion comes from Joe Rogan's opinion because it's like he sees more fights than I do. But John Jones is the greatest fighter ever. And it's the let me make sure of all this, but maybe I'm wrong. Jones versus Nioki. I'm gonna make sure it's the right Jones. keep just calling him Jones. John Jones. Yeah. So, a UFC heavyweight. So this is a heavyweight championship, and they haven't had a heavyweight championship since. When was the last UFC heavyweight championship? Okay, so this is the first, according to this, the first heavyweight UFC fight, a championship, since 2021, which is a big deal. The big thing about John Jones is he's basically undefeated. He's lost one time, but the reason why he lost was a disqualification. There's something like that you used to not be able to come down perpendicular with your elbow to someone's head. And like John Jones did it at a little bit of an angle, but they considered it perpendicular and he got disqualified. Aside from that, this motherfucker is he is 27 and out, aside from that. So it should be a really interesting fight. I'm excited for it.
It's coming. Ooh, this is so exciting. You know, you smell it, you walk in the house and it's cooking bacon.
Yeah.
That, we take that for granted. But that is an invisible thing. And who knows how many other things there are like that that we don't have. Like, we don't have the ability to detect neutrinos. You know, imagine if we could feel all the neutrinos passing through us at any given moment, right?
Visualize it as you're saying that. I'm like, there's
Right? I mean, they're literally going through the entire Earth. They're flying through the Earth right now.
Right.
But we don't have the ability to detect that. But why not? Right? I mean, that's a thing that's real that we don't have the tools for.
Yeah.
But we do have the tools for smell. So we have the tools to detect gases, but we don't have the tools to detect other things that we know are real.
Right. Well, our sensory perception only like.
That's fucking amazing, Chris. Just that. Where do you put the buttons? Oh yeah, no, I get that. What do you mean, like on YouTube and Twitch and stuff? Well, I do have that. I have Buy Me a Coffee, Cash App, I've got PayPal, I've got my Ethereum address, my Bitcoin address, my Solana address. So the ones that I don't have, and I've got and I might have some others, but I don't have two of them that you just said, right? Right. I got you. Well, yeah, I'm not. I think it's a good idea. It's in my link tree, and I looked it up. When you did it, I looked it up. It was like $40 a year for Rabbi Rothschild. Yeah. So, but right, I know. And I thought if it were 7 years, maybe, but 1 year, I don't know if I'm gonna do it. I mean, yeah. Right after you did it, I thought, oh, that was a great idea. So I did it through the naming service, not even naming service, whatever feed service. Exactly. And it was $40, and yeah. And then, you see, I buy these things, and it's great, but I don't use them for a year, and then a year goes by, and I gotta buy another one, and another one. Just the, oh, this is perfect. That's beautiful. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
I like that evolved biologically and took us so far. But like obviously, like we're sitting here talking about neutrinos because we have built technologies that can detect their existence and validate that they're there. And then we have theories that would be consistent with what you're just saying.
Yeah.
So the ways that we see the world, I guess my point is are not just the biological ones, but they're becoming enhanced by technology in all sorts of ways. And theories and explanations are part of that technological infrastructure, which is why we can talk about that. Our gravitational waves, for example.
Yes.
Through us right now. Too.
Right. We can't detect them. We could feel the effects of gravity itself.
Yeah.
You know, but we also know that that's entirely based on mass, right? So we also know that the gravity, like the more weight you have on you, the harder it is for you to get around because you're being pulled, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
And you can use that to your advantage by rocking. You know, you can get in better shape by putting a heavy backpack on, going up a hill. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
So you change your physical structure by adding weight.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we do. Right? You're changing your physical structure and your ability to move through space and time by resisting constantly. So developing these biological tools to get past gravity.
Well, I think it's amazing how much of like the physical world you can get a sense of by simple things like that.
Yeah.
Like you really do live in a physical reality. Like I know some people want to think we live in a simulation, but like there's a real physical world. And I think we only kind of misconceive of it as a simulation because like so much of our environment now is architected by human minds that it seems not real, but it is real.
So you don't subscribe to the possibility of simulation theory?
No, I find it inadequate for a number of reasons. Like it doesn't seem like it's a better explanation than any other current explanation for how the universe works. So, I put the simulation argument in intelligent design and even sort of the current laws of physics on kind of equal footing as far as their ability to explain why the universe exists the way it does, because what all three theories do is they basically push explanation to the boundary. And in physics, we do that by saying there was an initial state of the universe that was low entropy, and the laws of physics have described what it's done ever since, but you can't explain where the universe came from. And in this, in intelligent design, it's like you can't explain the universe is, designed by some being, but like, where did that thing come from? Right. And in the simulation argument, it's just the great programmer in the sky made us. And I think, the nuance there is like, if any entities like us could evolve that could build simulations, then it's far more likely that we live in a simulation. But I think you still have to assume a physical reality that evolves the capability of building simulations.
Yes.
So it seems all very circular to me.
Yes. Yeah.
And not explanatory.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are so confident in stating that, like Elon said, the chances of it not being a simulation are in the billions.
Yeah.
So 1 in billions that we are not in a simulation. But he's also crazy.
Well, I think it's easy to throw numbers out there, though, like, and not have them be founded in anything.
Right. There has to have been a thing before the simulation existed in order for that thing to create a simulation.
Well,
a simulation to emerge.
It's super interesting also to me that a lot of the people that are proponents of the simulation arguments tend to be in like the tech world. And so like I think it's in their favor to think that like, like it's great to think that computers are like gods and like, like, and to build this kind of mysticism around these technologies. But like if you really want an explanation for what simulations are, there has to be a continuity between the physical world and the simulation. And they like you have to be able to explain how it is that computation emerged on a planet, and simulations became possible on a planet. And like they emerged out of something. So I think I'm much more interested in like what is the implication of the virtual and the physical, and like how can we think about them as similar kinds of systems than to just a universe as a simulation. Therefore, it's all tell what universe exists.
Right.
It doesn't get you anywhere.
It doesn't. And also, I always think about the universe itself. We always want to look at a birth of a universe and the end of the universe. And I would say, I wonder if we do that because of our own biological limitations. If we think that a thing had to emerge, because we emerged. But why does it have to have emerged? If it exists,
right?
Why didn't it always exist? And but then that's a huge problem. Like,
you can't have everything exist forever.
Right.
That's where the problem.
So, but what could possibly exist to make everything exist? Which is the other one.
Yeah, the prime mover.
Well, not only that, but the craziest theory of all is the primary theory of the creation of the universe itself, which is the Big Bang theory, which is the absolutely nuttiest theory that's ever existed. Everything that exists came out of something so small, was smaller than the head of a pin, and then in one massive moment, it creates the universe itself. And that's one that universally is readable.
Yeah, I know.
And it seems to be a signature of it, so you can study it.
Yeah, there's no problem with crazy ideas. By the way, I love crazy ideas.
They're the craziest.
Yeah.
But that's the craziest, right?
Yeah. But even going back to simulation, but yeah, the Big Bang is I mean, but I think, when you're trying to understand how reality works, it should surprise you. And it should have counterintuitive properties. I mean, I think that's how we really know we're learning things. So, and I'm also of the perspective that I think any theory can be replaced by a better one. Any explanation is not an ultimate explanation. So we're constantly learning more, we're constantly refining our ideas. So
is that a problem in science, in that when people espouse a very particular idea of how the world works, they have a hard time backing off of that? And
I think
they
collectively, yes. I think scientists have a hard time doing that. And so I confront this a lot in my work because the kind of ideas we're proposing are new, and they say very different things than sort of the standard canon would say, or like we make like we're seeing structure that isn't part of the way that people talk scientifically about the nature of life or like its fundamental properties. And what I see is a lot of resistance to new ideas because people think things are already explained. And so this is really funny for me, the origin of life. It's like we already have an evolutionary theory, like the origin of life is solved, and it's like, have you been to a meeting on the origin of life? It's like that problem is not solved. I'm sorry, but so many people think it is. So they just think like it's easy, it's been done. You'll get like really prominent, physicists too, being like, oh, you get the first replicator on a planet, and then you get life. And the real hard problems are like, the long-term future of the universe and things. And I think we're reasoning based on assuming absolute knowledge sometimes when we don't have absolute knowledge.
Do you think that some of that sort of trying to define things in a definite way, that we do know it, we understand it, is in response to some religious ideas about the creation of life, and that they propose that these scientific theories have been solved? Because if you leave them open, that kind of opens the door to the possibility of a creator or of intelligent design, and they want to kind of rush to say, no, we figured it.
That's what I've been told. Because we have a lot of, there have been a lot of reactions to the work that we've been doing, both positive and interacting with people's dogmas in certain ways. So they're like very reactionary, and then some people are much more thoughtful and critical, and some people that are very not thoughtful but very critical. So you get like a whole spectrum, and I guess if you do any kind of profile science, you're going to get everything thrown at you. And part of the reason that I want the ideas out there is because I want that critical feedback. So that's fine. If it's intelligent feedback, that's amazing. But I think the thing that I've noticed is that the way that different communities interact with the ideas are totally different. So it's like, the evolutionary biologists, were some of them, not all of them, you can't make blanket statements about any group, really don't understand what we're trying to do. And then, but the creationists don't either, and they don't want it either. So it's like you're in this weird space and they're dealing with each other because they think they have totally different explanations for things. So, but yeah, I have been told that
You're good. Okay, so I did something. I was noticing, like, I'm just not getting any traction on Kick anymore, and it's not because it's a mixture of things. They I keep checking to see whenever I create an account, how long does it take me to get banned? And usually it would take me like an hour or 2 hours, and they got me down to a science. It's like 8 minutes. Boom, 8 minutes they got me. So and I get it. I literally told the owner of the platform, dog, all my names start with join Rabbi's Discord. Very easy to find me. Very easy to just go through wherever it says join Rabbi's Discord. So I changed the bot, and I'm just testing it right now. But it seems to be working thus far pretty well. And it's now just giving a random username. So what that does is it makes it difficult to find whatever account I'm using, because the account's like Milky Way grasshopper dog, and it'll just be like, oh, okay. And I'm going to see how long it takes them to ban them out. So I'm running a little bit of a test, and then also, if you ever have a chance to watch anybody's stream, it, in my opinion, should be Eddie Craig's stream. He's the owner of Kick, and so it's going on right now. He has them every Saturday about this time. So I'm just watching it, and he's got the guy who, that I was accused of sending a guy a middle finger. You remember this? That's true. That's actually true. But actually, he's the head admin at Kick. He accused me of sending him a middle finger. It's like, dude, I would not look up your address and send you a middle finger. That's just not how I operate. And I made like a bunch of videos for him to make sure he was aware that. Oh, the what? No, not like that. No, it's a candle. No, it was just a candle. No, it's just it was a middle finger candle. But so that guy's, and I really like him. His name is, he goes by Santa Maria. I think he's very, very smart, and I tell him that. Like, he is. He's former Amazon. He's the top guy at Kick, and right now they're in the middle of their discussion, so I'm just listening to that. But no worries. You do you. Go for it. Cool. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Um, it's different. It's like the other one. It was more like the microphone was in front of you. This one, it's kind of like it's picking up off the walls. But I mean, you still sound great. Okay, you just switch. Go put the things on and walk to the back of the room if you can, and um and like turn around and talk to the wall. Oh wow, it's really good. Yeah, really, really good. hear what you're saying, and it's not worse. It's just different. So yeah, but especially if I can be honest with you, sometimes you are far from the microphone, and it's a little hard to hear you. But it's never been an issue. But I think it's very good. Oh yeah, no, they're perfect. Yeah, you just have to be careful when you wash them, not to use like fabric softener or get it on the stuff. Very cool. I think those would be really cool for like running outside or something. Okay. Cool. I see. Have you ever heard of bamboo torture? Very no. That's a way. But actually, bamboo grows so quickly that if you put someone over a bed of bamboo within like a day, it will split them from the back. So like basically, if you tie someone's arms and legs like this over bamboo, it will grow and actually pierce through you. Yeah, I know what you're talking about with the underneath the fingernails, like they did in World War II with the Japanese, Vietnam and stuff. There's that too, but it's. Let me make sure I'm referencing it correctly because when you said underneath the fingernails, that's kind of where my mind went first. What is the kind of what is bamboo torture? Bamboo torture is a form of torture and execution where bamboo shoots grow through the body of the victim. So the one that goes through you is, yeah, yep, angle of your table makes you feel better. I think that the more normalcy that you get in your life, the better. So, and I think you have an amazing friend who kept that table for you for that. We just spend so much time with each other. We just spend so much time with each other. We've been on like a sleepover for like 5 months. I mean, very close, very similar to being a roommate with someone. And frankly, I love it. I quite enjoy your friendship. Right, right. Well, right, right. Isn't that weird? I think I told you that one guy with his accent, not Frosty, that the guy you kind of. I get it. No, no, no. I get it. You don't have to justify it. I heard the conversation. He's making racist remarks. He's saying that he's going to come kill somebody. I totally get it. Yeah, no worries, man. And um, with someone, yeah, you're okay there. I know. Well, his British accent is like the absolute best British accent I've ever heard of someone who was born in the United States. Like, huh? Like it's like wait. I, that's a whole another story. That's a whole another realm of his. Where he no, I completely understand that one. I Oh, well, no way. No, your co-host is a big dude. Right, right. Yeah, no, that's not. That doesn't make too much sense. Who gives a shit? Well, are you living? Right over here. Right at the catty cat. How are you? Hope you're well. How'd you hear about me? Oh, amazing. Shout out to Inra, shout out to Lucy. Yeah, I've been alive with you for like 6 months. Kitty cats, you know anything about me? Wait, dog, absolutely. I have more data online than any person in global history. Do you mind if I tell you a little bit more about myself? Excellent. All right, so I'm Rabbi Rothschild. I stream 24/7 for world peace. I don't want war anymore. I've been doing this now for more than 3 years. Goes back to the pandemic. We've seen the death of a queen, the birth of AI, the coronation of a king, and everything in between. We talk about some things on the stream that aren't normally discussed, things like anti-gravity, anti-matter, life extension technology through human growth hormone, through stem cells, through perhaps abortion therapy, using platelets of young people for the benefit of older people, the idea of use of nootropics and cryogenics, all kinds of things are going to get you ahead of hands past age 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, but eventually your body's going to start to break down. That's where the next kind of technology comes in. Has anybody ever told you that they don't think you're going to die? Excellent. Well, I have the privilege of being the first person to tell you that. And I really mean this. Why? There's a type of technology that is known as mind uploading technology, where we scan your brain, your central nervous system, and your peripheral nervous system into a computer for later download as an android, an avatar, a clone of yourself, a cyborg, a cybernetic being, a robot, an ethereal being, whatever you want to be. What I'm telling you is basically you have the opportunity to have perhaps digital immortality, which is a really exciting thing. And well, Rabbi, I'm just a normal person. That's going to be really expensive. No need to worry. I have more data than any person on earth. Right now, you're live on 8 different YouTubes. You're live on 8 different Twitches. You're live on 8 different Rumbos. 8 different of all the major streaming services. And I can tell you that data is what's number one resource. Bill Gates coined the phrase in the 1990s, content is king, and I'm making it true today. The Economist magazine stated in 2018 that data had overtaken petroleum as its number one resource. So, and I have more data online than any person. So I'm going to be able to monetize that hopefully. And when I do, I'm going to make Kevin fans all of your dreams. You're going to be able to make every girl who had a crush on you or you had a crush on in elementary school, they're all going to want you. All your friends, you're going to be able to help all of them. You're going to be able to pay off other things, pay off anything that they have and allow them to start. You're going to be able to start your own philanthropic organizations, your own charities, and I want to help bring world peace to the world. And the way I'm going to do this through data. How's that sound, you catty cats? It's on data. But data's its number one resource. It's more valuable than food, water, petroleum, gold, diamonds. And I have more data than anything. Essentially, what people will be able to do is study this in the future. For more than just, hey, it's Rabbi on a bunch of different streams, people will be able to study my circadian movement, my circadian rhythm, my movement, my behavior, my emotions, my eating habits, my sleeping habits, my bathing habits, my hygienic characteristics, everything about the human body we'll be able to study. And then eventually we're going to be able to put augmented reality on this. You'll be able to see what the temperature is, what the dew point is, what the humidity is. You'll be able to see how many breaths per second I take, how many blinks per second I take. When I do anything, essentially, I might be the most studied person in global history. This is essentially a real life training here. And I know it may seem like, hey, that sounds like a good plan. How long can you go viral? And it really can happen at any time. I've got many different devices. I'll show you what I've got going on in a second. Just one moment. I am live in many different Discords, like at least 12 different Discords. I'm live on 8 different YouTubes. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on Twitch. I'm live on eight different Twitches, 8 different Rumbles. I'm live on Twitter, TikTok, Africa TV, which is big in South. I think would be big in Africa, but it's really big in South Korea. I'm live on Instagram. I'm live on 12 different Discords. I'm live on Vigo Live, Loco TV, Nemo TV, No Live, live on D Live, YouNow, Breakers TV, Trovo, Vault, Odyssey, FC2 Live, Arena TV. I have over 100 YouTube accounts. I have over 200 Instagram accounts. I have over 300 Twitch accounts. I have over 1,000 TikTok accounts. I have over 2,000 Twitter accounts and over 10,000 Facebook accounts. So basically, I have more social media than any person. And if you're like, well, like, do they have content? Every single one of these has some kind of content, essentially. And one of the days, I started this 3 years ago. I didn't have anybody behind me, no community. It's all been individually funded. And at this point, we've got 1,400 people in a very strong Discord. We've got people in here 24 hours a day. And it's really exciting. I just started this Discord this summer. So it's only been going a few months. And you see the kind of results that we've had. And I just want you to know that I really want to help you and your friends and family in the future if you want that help. And when this goes viral, I'm recording the same. This will help Caddy Pants and everything we're doing with it. How's that sound? So, you wonder what we're doing right now? We're watching Joe Rogan. You know who Joe Rogan is? The stream Joe Rogan. I'm in the middle of the Joe Rogan marathon. So, but like last night, we streamed the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. Tonight, we're going to stream UFC 309. Do you like sports, Teddy Pants? Do you like football? Beautiful. Additionally, you may see, and I'm sure you have, Rabbi, why do you have like kitty blankets and stuff and like cartoons? This is actually a cryptocurrency that sponsors me. LFG, how are you, baby? Shout out to you, Crowley. Crowley, I'm in the middle of a spiel right now. I am plugging Harry Potter about something. So essentially, this point when I started has been less than a penny. And like a month ago, it was worth like 8 cents, and it has now like worth near 30 cents, and it has like a $300 million market cap. So there are a lot of people behind this. Additionally, and I don't want you to buy this NFT. You invest, do your own due diligence. But what I am telling you is that this NFT is backed by data, and this coin is backed by data. This NFT, when I started, they were giving them away a few weeks ago. They were $800. Now they're $11,000. So we're seeing a lot of growth out of this, and I've just had the most wonderful community from Harry Potter sponsor me on this journey. I met them more than a year ago. I've been live in their Telegram now for more than a year, taking questions from your community, supporting my community. Essentially, I'm like, love you too, baby. You take care, Crowley. Take care. Apologies for that. Take care, my man. So yeah, we've got a really great community, really great people here, and when I tell you that I think I'm going to be able to make you rich, I wouldn't just say that. I wouldn't just bluff you. I wouldn't just try to inflate your ego. I really mean it. That's a cool thing. Pardon? Oh, what's the timer? It's t.me/, yep, t.me// HPOS, the number one, the number zero, and the letter I. You can also go to the website, which is hposni.com, and you'll see it's got a really retro effect, but just know it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But we went with the retro effect. We wanted it to be like a 90s website, like you might have gotten decades ago. But if you want to see the title again, it's t.me/HPOS0I, and it's very exciting to be on the cutting edge of essentially cryptocurrency and live streaming. Right before you came in, we were watching Eddie Craven. Eddie Craven is the owner of the platform Kick. We were watching his weekly question and answer, and he and I are friends on Discord. So I mean, I got billionaires in my DMs essentially, with just a little bit more momentum, and everybody's gonna know about this. Everybody on Kick already knows about me. Even Ross knows about me. He's been in the stream, and I mean, it's super cool to allow me to stream in his Discord now for like more than 6 months. I'm the number one streamer in Gator Ross's Discord. I'm the number one streamer in ITrust's Discord and many other Discords as well. Oh yeah, 24/7, all the time. Yeah, I do everything I can. When I go outside, I stream that. When I go to the bathroom, I stream that. I stream that in the shower. A lot of times I wear like bathing trunks, but sometimes I just have the camera above me. I created robots for the Kick platform that essentially they do three things for me at any given time. Apologies, I just have to update one of my computers. They follow people. They create a clip of them, and when it creates a clip, it puts my Discord in the clip, and then also it spams them. It spams it 8 times, and then it moves on to the next. So it's not an overwhelming amount of spam. I understand that we have real people here, but also I'm very open to telling people how they can avoid this. All they have to do is put like a 1 minute delay on their streams, and they'll never get any spam. They will get my clips, but there's not a lot that they can do about that. And so you, oh, you're good. So like if you ask the biggest streamers on Kick, Aiden Ross, Amaranth, PX6, Ice Poseidon, Action Man, all of those people, they all know me very well. And recently I did an interview with Sam Bond on Kick and also Ori on Kick. So those are some nice interviews. If you ever want to learn about like more about what I do or my interactions with people, if you don't mind, I'll send you and send you a friend request. And yeah, I mean, aside from that, we're gonna watch UFC tonight, which is a big deal. And then, the cryptocurrency that I'm in, we have like the most amazing, um, we have the most amazing fantasy football league. So it gets really intense, really competitive, and there's a lot of money on the line because when we first started, it was like a $50 buy-in, but the coin was only worth like 8 cents then. Now it's worth like 30 cents, and so when before the pot was going to be like $600, it's now going to be worth thousands of dollars. So kind of a neat thing that we got going on. So here, like, if you wonder what else would be on here, I do a lot of karaoke. I watch a lot of stand-up. I've always got the radio going in the background at KFI Los Angeles, basically always playing the news. So you can go through any of my streams all the way back case any one of my streams go down, I have another 7 or so to back it up. And it's just quite an exciting little project that I've got going. So, yeah, do you have any questions? One more time. Oh, absolutely. So just know you're always welcome here. I don't expect you to be here all day like some of the other people, but whenever you're bored, I ask that you just come in and see what we're doing. And we'll make really good friends. And we've always got something interesting to Joe Rogan going or any of the other stuff. So just know that you're always welcome here, okay? Excellent. All right, well, with that, I'm going to continue working on my bots. I'm going to play Joe Rogan. If you have any other questions, let me know. But I want you to know that this is the beginning of our friendship. I understand. Well, you do what you need to get prepared for that. And just know that we're here for you. And I care about people. I care about the good and good. I really do this for world peace. I'm sick of every single day hearing about wars. And I want them to stop everywhere in the world. But you're like, Rabbi, what are you going to be able to do to stop war? Well, essentially, this gives me a platform to be able to discuss world peace. And once we get people to discuss world peace, we can start moving forward. A lot of times people are contrarian and they'll say, well, I don't believe in world peace. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. Or they'll say, I don't think that world peace will ever happen. Okay, that's cool as well. But what you have to understand, what they have to understand is if you study extraterrestrial civilizations, and this isn't so wild an idea. We just had congressional hearings this week on the UFO subject, and we had them in 2023 as well. This disclosure is happening very, maybe a snail's pace, but it is happening. And when we study these types of civilizations, we learn that they never have a civil war going on at home, and they start exploring other areas. No, what happens is they unite at home, and then they start with space tourism and terraforming other planets, and then eventually moving into interstellar travel. Eventually, humans are going to do that as well, and it's just a matter of time until we get peace on this globe. And I'm an advocate for it. So what do I advocate? I don't think it's right for me to put my hands on you, nor your hands on me. And if we ever have a war, the way that I think that it should be addressed is everybody puts down their arms immediately. All of the hostages from both sides are released no matter what. We don't use people as a negotiation piece. We have both sides sit at the table, eye to eye, in the same room, and live stream. That's my plan. And we come to terms. If we need, we get out a map and we say, okay, what part of the land do you want? What part of the land do you want? And we're going to sit here all day until we come to some kind of conclusion. And I think it's pretty simple. Now, I am just one person. And right now, do I have all of the influence that I'd like? No. But the second that this goes viral, I'll have more influence than anybody. I'll be the most famous person on earth because I have more data on than anybody on earth. I've been on camera more than any person ever. I have 10 times more data on YouTube alone than Mr. Beast and PewDiePie combined. I mean, I just have huge amounts, 10 times, 100 times. So people like that, definitely at a university level and perhaps at other levels of academia will study this just to see what it's like of the record of a human. In the past, people would keep journals. We had diarists. People would write diaries every day. And that's essentially what I do for the modern age. When do I think that I go viral? It's a good question. I hope I can agree with you. And I've got some plans in place that may happen. I get more and more well known on Discord in particular, but also I've created some robots on Kick that spam Kick for me. And with the amount of momentum that we've seen, I mean, sometimes I get 25 people in here within a few minutes. Other times it's just a few people, but all it takes is just one event for someone to say, what is this person? I've never seen so many accounts before. They tell a friend, that friend's like, wow, this is wild. They're going to say that they're going to make us a trillionaire. It's worth a retweet. And then that spreads. And all of a sudden, I'm different than any other creator. Any other creator, you're going to be able to go through all of their content within an hour. And you're going to be able to get the gist of it. Not mine. Mine, it'll take you an hour to just go through my Instagram easily. And I mean, scrolling like this quickly. I mean, when you have 200 Instagram, I created a robot on Instagram that automatically uploads every single minute for me, but it uploads once an hour. And so you'll be able to actually watch life in reverse on Instagram. It's going to be a spectacular opportunity for the world. And on YouTube, and on Twitch, and on all the other ones. And the funny thing is, when I go viral, people are like, oh yeah, I know about this person 2 years ago. They were scamming me. Or I know about this person 3 years ago. I was one of the first people in their Facebook group or in their YouTube chat. So a lot of people do know about me, and it's coming to a head. So I hope by the end of the year, we'll be famous, and if not, then hopefully in the weeks thereafter. Any other questions? I appreciate it. We're here for you. Learn about you more as much as you want to share everyone there. Just know that we have a place here to be cozy, comfortable, and chill whenever you want, okay? Excellent. We'll come back for the fight tonight, okay? Excellent. You know, John Jones, it's like the first time in 3 years that they've been a heavyweight fight. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be tight. So we'll see you tonight, okay, Catty Cats? Just one moment. I'll get you all that information. What time is UFC 309? By the way, I use AI a lot. So it doesn't always work exactly. But looks like it's going to be. So the main card is 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're here by 7 p.m. Pacific time, you'll be able to see the main card. Actually, I've got a. Do you see where this lady is here on the screen? Okay, so all I have to do is go like this, and
That field is
it'll play.
particularly protected, and it's like
I can also live stream it as well. And then I have a projector where I can show it. So I've got like 3 different ways that I'll show it. All right, so well, I hope you have a wonderful day at work. We'll see you later today, okay? Peace, man. Shout out to Catty Cats, everybody.
ideas because it's had to battle with intelligent design for so many decades. It didn't really stand its ground. And Origin of Life is like a really separate community from biology writ large. I mean, I was even told early in my career when I was a postdoc by a very prominent biologist that I shouldn't work on origins of life. And I want to understand what life is. I should just pick a standard biology problem. And I thought to myself, like, the one problem we want to pick is the one everyone can't answer because that's where you have the most progress.
Yeah.
So it's just very funny to me that it's often swept under the rug as solved or too hard to solve, both simultaneously at the same time.
It sounds the same to me that someone would tell you not to look into the origin of life.
Yeah.
Because the idea that we have figured everything out about, even if we understand the processes involved, right? How often does this take place in the universe? Like,
Yeah.
what is this? What is it? There are other ways to do it.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
fascinating.
we don't have an idea what an alien is. right? Like, I mean, just that should slap you in the face. Like, the multitude of ways we talk about alien, we don't know what we mean when we say that.
It brings me back to this concept of muse. So my thought, I had this bizarre thought once, that ideas are like clubs.
Oh, sure, I totally agree with that.
Really?
Yeah.
So my thought is every physical object that human beings have ever created came out of an idea.
Yes.
So idea gets into primate brain goes,
Yeah.
and then primate brain figures out a way to hollow out a tree and turn it into a canoe, and then primate brain says, you know what, let go of the stick. If I pull it back, it goes forward, right? If I let go of it, it springs. What if I could tie a string? What if I could pull it further? What if I get a stick? I can get that stick to fly, and then it becomes a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And so the human mind interacts with these ideas, and the ideas manifest themselves in physical objects.
Yes.
And every physical object, including airplanes, spaceships, space stations, satellites, all of them come from ideas.
I know.
And then these ideas, much like human beings interact with other human beings, these ideas interact with other ideas, and they create more and more complex versions. Get quantum computing.
Yeah.
It's like one person's idea.
No, these are things that happen over centuries. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I totally agree with this. I actually make some arguments in my book about rockets. That's a good example of this, right? Like, they were imagined long before they became actual
Another
physical
Chinese
objects.
invention, by the way.
Yeah, the Chinese were onto lots of stuff.
Everything. Paper, alcohol,
Yeah.
everything. Mechanical clock, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think this gets to the idea of, like, living objects being deep in time, because you're like, and I also think a lot about the nature of, like, abstract things versus physical things. So I think everything is physical, and when we think of ideas as being abstract, it's just because, you know, like, they're not physical objects yet in the same way that we see these kind of physical objects.
But they come to our mind in some weird way that doesn't seem like you. Look, if I dig a hole, I know I dug that hole.
Yeah.
Right? I know I stuck that shovel, I exerted effort, I took the force, I lifted the dirt up. I made the hole. So if someone says, where'd that hole come from? I'm like, oh, I dug the hole.
Yeah.
Simple. But if someone says, where did you get the idea for a joke? I'll go, I don't know. It came to me one day.
Yeah.
I was just laughing with my friends, and a thought popped in. It wasn't a calculated thing where I worked on it forever and ever. It's just it got entered into my mind out of nowhere, and then it came out my mouth, and everybody laughed, and I'm not sure where it came from. That's weird.
It is totally weird.
It's weird. Now imagine that someone figuring out an airplane, like some whole different
Well,
writer.
people did, but you're right. It's also distributed over many human minds. So it's not like a single mind architecture. It's like the interaction of many minds in the physical world that generates these things. But I think, I think it's time. It's time. Literally, yeah. So in assembly theory, you think time is fundamental, but you might think about time as in terms of causation. And things like you that are, take billions of years for the universe to generate have a lot of time embedded in you, and time is actually the creative mechanism that's expanding the space of possibilities and maybe the universe itself. But that's how I think about it. So you actually have an incredible amount of time in a small amount of space. That's what you are as an evolved object. At least that's sort of my current thinking with this theory that we're developing, how we're trying to test the transition to life. And so where are those things coming from? They're coming from the fact that you are an architecture that's deep in time, and you have all of this internal space in you that's temporal on the side, it's not spatial on the side, that you can draw from to create things.
And if you are reading people's work and interacting with people's research, and you're learning things that people have discovered, you're essentially interacting with their time.
Yes, you're looking at all their traces of time, and you're doing it over time, and that's becoming part of your architecture. And time and all of that structure is still in you.
And the more time you spend on it, the more you'll absorb it.
Yeah.
You'll absorb more and more and more. And the more people's thoughts and more people's work you take, again, you're taking all of their time.
Yes.
And putting it all in your head.
We're just like bundles. I think about time and information kind of being the same thing. But we're just all of that causation bundled up in like these small. We look small, but we're not small. So sometimes I have this visualization of Earth as like the largest thing in the universe that we know of, which is in terms of possibility probability space or how much time is embedded in the current structure of the Earth. So if you could do a zoom out of like the entire universe, and you could look at like space, assuming there's no aliens out there, you look at Earth, like Earth is giant as far as like the amount of stuff that can be made here and how much history is embodied on every object. It's just this huge causal structure. It's like, and I think our representation is in that physics, and that's one of the reasons that we have this kind of perplexing feature of like these things seem abstract. Well, they're not abstract. Like they don't look like they're in physical space, like knock on the table, but the table is like an object that has like 4 billion years of history in it. So it's like the physicality of the table is loosely in time, not space.
Mm.
And that's true, I think, for us as living things.
It makes sense. And it also, if you could go to the original collision of like Earth 1,
yeah,
when Earth 1 creates the new, and just imagine being able to. It's so crazy. It's the only thing that keeps our atmosphere stable.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why we're here. Like
Yeah.
in this form, with stable temperatures. And it's so big.
Yeah.
It's 1/4 the size of us.
And it's just nice on that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's floating in the sky and it makes it, something. The night looking
Yeah.
at it.
And we get places.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
much
yeah.
human history is dictated. Anyways.
It is. No, it's remarkable. But that this whole thing, if you could watch it take place, I wonder if I don't often thought like there's so many mysteries of history, but I almost wondered that if calculations get to a point, if computers get to a point where they could examine all of the objects in all the places that they are currently in the world and all the force that would cause them to exist and the history that causes them to exist, you could accurately go back and see exactly what happened every step of the way.
Yeah. I think it might be possible. It's an interesting kind of thought experiment about like whether the universe is deterministic and fully predictable. And I think in the past, like one of the reasons that we think the laws of physics are deterministic is because in the past you can't determine things, but I think the future is undetermined until it happens.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be possible, but I don't know how much you can reconstruct because things die out, like extinction of entire lines of life, or like things disappear, like they don't exist anymore. And so I think that you can reconstruct the past, but I don't believe personally in an exact history for the universe.
Well, if we can reconstruct the past based on our current understanding, which is fairly limited and much greater than it used to be 300 or 400 years ago, if we could expand that knowledge for the next 1,000, 500,000 years ago, whatever it is from now into the future, to develop some sort of computation system, some sort of an ability to have an accurate assessment of everything that took place, and then be able to lay it out how it took place, because of all the objects and all the places and all the species that died off, and all the records when they do core samples and understand the iridium content, which meant asteroids impacting here, or in carbon, which is some sort of a fire here, and just calculate it out where you can get some accurate.
In principle, it makes sense, but I think in practice, I'm not even sure that's physically possible because as you're like trying to compute everything that the universe has done, you also have to like make sure that physical thing actually can calculate itself and continue to exist in the future. So if you're like there, it's not. It's an interesting thought experiment about like how much the universe can be computed, but you have to deal with resource bounds, and so like you have to deal with an actual physical implementation of that computer, and that computer has to be able to persist long enough to do the calculations and have enough energy to do it, which means there has to be things external to the computer. So you can't use all the resources available just for the computer. Like the compute, you actually have to keep the whole thing running. So I don't think that you actually can know the past with exactly. I was going to say infinite resolution, but I don't believe in these anyway. But like really precise resolution that you could reconstruct everything that has happened in the history of the universe. I think our universe forgets things, and I think it does so on purpose because that's part of the not purpose, but like not in an anthropocentric way. But it does so because the act of forgetting things is actually how the universe generates novelty. If it remembered everything in the past and ultimately those things persisted. Like we live in an incredibly boring universe. We live in a universe that's constantly creating things, and sometimes if you know, like some of those things can't be generated anymore, but it makes more space for other things to be created.
You don't believe in that?
I don't.
Interesting.
I mean, as a mathematical construct, sure, but as a real physical thing, no. But I have a really different view of mathematics than most people. Like, I think mathematics is a physical system that exists on our planet, and I don't believe in like a Euclidean world that's like perfect mathematical forms. I think they're a thing that our bias group has invented, and one of the reasons that we think mathematics is universal is because it's a language that we understand that actually, you know, like is information that's embedded in pretty much every object in our environment. But it doesn't mean that it's like it has universal reach.
Yeah, but there's problems with mathematics too, right? Like Einstein's math.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Bizarre with math, so it almost leads to an incomplete understanding of mathematics, even as we currently know it.
Right. Well, there's always that. I mean, you know, it always perplexes me that, you know, people accepted Euclidean geometry as the only form of geometry for like 2,000 years. I mean, it's like literally that was it. And then we were like, oh, well, there could be non-Euclidean geometries, and we just never imagined that because like they don't reflect our physical environment. I mean, that's crazy. So that's saying that there's mathematics we don't understand, but then there's a question about whether there's a deeper structure that's not even mathematical that math might be derived from. Like, is there a language deeper than math? Don't know. I mean, I think that I have. I think that a lot. Well, I mean, yeah, no, it's okay. Well, I worry about this a lot with like the nature of the relationship between the theory of computation and assembly theory, for example. So computation is, you know, a way that we kind of understand the formalization of mathematical things that we actually can, you know, algorithmically do, right? So anything that you can calculate, you can compute. And so there are obviously like uncomputable numbers and things like that, but they live in some abstract, like. But anyway, so assembly theory has some features that look like theories of complexity and computation, and that, you know, like people talk about a minimal complexity for a computer program as being the way that we talk about complexity. We talk about a minimal causal history to construct an object. But I think what assembly theory is that is a bit different and super interesting is it's NP, like it's actually hard to compute the assembly index. It's harder than classes of computational algorithms that are kind of similar to it. But the universe generates these molecules that are computationally incredibly complex, but causally the universe can generate them. And so, like, you couldn't compute necessarily, like, on a supercomputer, like, you know, the complexity of a cell, like you're saying, like, could I reconstruct the whole history? Yeah, the universe can generate that structure. So it suggests to me that there's something else going on, and the space is actually a lot larger than we can computationally use.
So what else could be going on?
I think that the best language I have for it right now, and I really don't know, like I'm really struggling with this in my work right now, and me and I are going back and forth about this all the time, but is causation, and also that the other part about like why the universe is maybe not computable is this mechanism of novelty generation. Like there are some if the universe genuinely creates novelty that can't be predicted on prior history, and like the future really is not determined, that's just suggesting something fundamentally different than the way that we understand how the world works right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is, but I think it has to do with something with causation and something about the physicality of objects. Like objects really do exist; they really do encode their histories, and those histories are interacting all the time, which is making everything much more complicated. Like that idea of these time threads interacting that you were talking about.
And here's the fundamental question: why?
Yes. I think, I mean, when I think about like what life is, like why does life exist? I think the universe is trying to maximize the number of things that exist. Because if you think that like things exist or they don't, and you know, like the universe is the constructor for things to get to exist. Like it's building all of existence is, you know, like what physically exists in the universe. You know, wouldn't it be great if like there was a principle of nature where it's just trying to pack as much existence in as possible?
Well, it makes sense also if physical things these human beings create and life creates physical things.
Yes.
That would be the best way to maximize them, because this
which is also why I think we have free will. Because if we act independently, we're actually more creative than if we didn't.
Do you ever butt heads with determinism people?
I butt heads with everyone. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, no, I fundamentally love disagreeing with smart people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and I try to surround myself with colleagues that share that mentality. So I think, yeah, and I think being around people that challenge you is so critical. And like, I disagree with them on fundamental things, like that's okay. Like I like some of my closest friends boil my blood on some things, but you have to respect that they're thinking smart people, and like, yeah. So
I always put myself there.
yeah.
You know, I think we have a huge problem as human beings is we attach ideas to ourselves, and so we defend these ideas as if we're defending our very
Yes,
existence.
yes. I know. I think we do have a tendency to do that.
I've developed that through having so many conversations with people that I don't see eye to eye with on a podcast, and instead of arguing with them, I try to ask them how they think, why they think, where they think,
Yes.
what is it. Challenge a little bit just to try to get a response out of them, try to figure out like what is your process or why is it so different.
Well, that's good for you too, because you grow more and you understand more by doing that.
So I think over the last 15 years, it's been like the most radical, unexpected education that I could have ever had.
That's amazing.
I'm a different human.
Yeah.
Like completely different human than I was 15 years ago.
Yeah. I think that is something that's really hard. Is like if you close yourself to ideas that you don't agree with, you're closing off like yourself to potential to grow.
Yes.
And understand the world better. And I think
unquestionably.
Yeah.
Unquestionably. And these ideas, the problem when we start defending them is like then we stop looking at them. We put them as like a protective thing. We're trying to argue against. We're trying to, instead of invite criticism and some sort of an analysis of our thought process, we try to defend.
No, so I'm happy like professionally also to change my mind all the time. So I was a determinist. I'm not a determinist anymore. Right now I'm a presentist.
When did that change?
I think that probably changed in the last few years. And it's mostly because of the structure of what I understand of like what we're doing with assembly theory. So like assembly theory is like still very much in development, and we're still really trying to work on the ideas. But I always had these ideas about the origin of life having something to do with information playing a causal role in the structure of reality. And information is like an abstract thing. Like how can you think of mathematical structures can influence physical world? But like you just gave great examples of things that were once ideas that became physical. And I think about like Newton's law of gravitation. It's a law of nature. It describes something about the objective world, but the law itself is also an object. It's a biosphere that's generated structure, like allowing us to launch satellites into space. That wouldn't be possible without that mathematical form, the system on our planet as a description of reality. Right? So that's an object. And so these kind of things are always really perplexing to me. And so, I started working with Leon assembly theory, and he was very radical and very thought-provoking and always pushing. And he was really on this idea of the universe not being deterministic and getting larger on time, and like part of that was not it was. He's like I'm a chemist. I burn shit. I see this in the lab. The second law is not like the right description of like what's going on here, but there is some underlying undeterminism and novelty mechanism in chemistry that life seems to be, really manifesting. And
so what is free will then?
For me, so what happened was when I started working on assembly theory, I started to see that there was a really different structure, especially associated with the way information gets embodied in physical objects, with history being physical objects. And free will becomes this idea that you actually can't, in standard physics, you say no different like us can be reduced to our atoms, and all the fundamental descriptions down there. But what you've done is strict that physical system all the time inside of it, right? So elementary particles, they don't require a memory from the universe to generate them. They're spontaneous. The universe has them for free. But things like us require memory, and things that know how to build things like us in order for us to exist. And then once we exist, we're encoding all of that history information in us as objects. All of that organization is in us, which means that all of the selection for all the histories to generate us is still part of us and allows us to actually work in this combinatorial space that we can actually generate new structures. And that is actually where free will comes from. It's not that when you can't reduce things to elementary particles all the time, and you actually have time and objects, things become causal agents, actually have some navigability over the combinatorial space of the possibilities they live in that they have some control over. And that's what I think free will is. You don't have control over everything. So it's not like free will is not all free or all determinism. And I think Dan Dennett was really brilliant on this point. Like he talked about free will inflation, which I thought was a hysterical concept. It's like really funny. But it's like either people think the universe is random and you actually have free will and control over everything. I think it's fully deterministic and you have no freedom. But actually what it is determinism is built over lineages because things get selected to exist and they become part of the regular structure of our universe. So determinism itself is an emergent property, and things that are very deterministic like us actually have more causal control over the kind of things that can happen to them, but they can't control everything. So we have limited freedom. Like I couldn't be home in Arizona this exact second, but I could be there later today because I planned ahead for it. Like that's where free will executes over time.
So this concept of determinism is just too simplistic.
Yeah. I mean, to think that the universe is all like one human concept anyway is too simplistic. It's like it's deterministic or it's not deterministic. Actually, there are cases where you can model it as being deterministic because you're looking at the past. And places you cannot model it as being deterministic because you're looking at the future.
Right.
And I think that's a pretty simple concept and very evident when you're looking at living things. Like no one can predict the future technologies. Like are the future of bias here.
Right.
Some of the information is there. Like we were talking about before, like mates will probably still be present 50 years from now. So like I might be able to predict some things for the future, but the novelty is really hard.
The problem I always have with determinism is that people seem too sure of it.
Yes.
And the people that espouse it seem very sure of it. And I think, how can you be sure when you know for a fact in your own mind you make decisions?
Yeah.
So, and you think that these decisions are made entirely based on your life experiences, your education, your biology, yada, yada, yada. Maybe not. Because there's things going on that are weird. There's moments, there's inspiration.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happens.
Intuition is a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yes, like I live my whole life on instincts.
Yeah.
Like I do things that a lot of people are like, why are you doing that? I'm like,
That's
what
history.
you do.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what
Yeah.
you do. Like it feels like a thing to do. And that seems to be, for lack of a better term, free will. The discipline itself, for lack of a better term, is free will.
Yeah.
What is it about the idea of being rewarded by doing something difficult you don't want to do, but you force yourself to do it? If that is not free will, what is?
Yeah.
Like it seems like nothing can make you get up and go for a run if you don't want to go for a run. But you decide to do it, which is the embodiment of free will.
Right.
Does free will manifest in a physical
100%
action?
Yeah, I think the issue about why people like really want to say free will doesn't exist is because it's not compatible with standard like theories of physics, and therefore, we know how our universe works. You can't have free will, but our standard theories of physics can't explain life. They can't explain mind, and free will lives in the space of whatever physics describes life and mind. It doesn't live in the physics of gravitation or the physics of quantum particles. Like those are totally different areas of physical reality that have nothing to do with you as an evolved structure over 4 billion years that now has agency in the universe. Like you're a different component of physical reality than those things you're describing. And I think we have a tendency to think physics is complete. We have done this throughout like the history of physics. It's like every century they think the last century did it. Like we understand reality now. It's like every century has a new description. I will never forget. Like I bounced in between classes as an undergrad physics. And how many times I was told, like I should, it's really comical at the end of the 1800s, and they thought physics was complete. And like then there was general relativity from the kids. This is so funny, but it's like I go in the physics department and we're talking about this, and like we don't need new physics for life. Like physics is already done. Like we have the standard model. I'm just like, are you not like understanding the dichotomy here between what we teach like students and like how we talk about working out? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Totally crazy.
It is crazy that we repeat these problems, repeat these issues over and over and over again. And we're all back then we were stupid. Like, don't you think in the future, if you could just look at the history of human beings, what they believe, and don't you think there's got to be some stuff like that right now?
Yeah,
there has to be.
There has to be.
There's no way we figured it out.
No, I definitely think fundamental physics has a very bright future of like having some really fundamentally like earth-shattering ways of thinking about things that I don't even think like our current theories are like not like they're going to be replaced by things even more awful. And I'm really excited about that. I mean, that's like why you want to do like physics, right? Like you don't want to work on the theories of like, you know, the guys that were around 100 years ago. Like why don't you work on the new ideas that describe the reality of like you're coming to understand it now in history? Yeah, so it's funny that people want to just accept what previous generations taught them as like absolute fact, and then not be confronted with like the changing times, the changing understanding of the world around us, the changing sets of observations. Because I can imagine, you know, many thousands of years ago, when humans were, you know, still like, you know, being hunter-gatherers, not really thinking we have a lot of causal agency in the world. Like you see the seasons, you have no control over them, and like, you know, and so obviously, like we're born out of this idea that the universe is objective and existing outside of us because of a deep history of not having control. But like now in a modern technological society, we see how much of reality we've shaped and changed. Like I don't know how you could hold that view anymore. And like it's very deep in our history that like we think these things, but like the evidence around us right now is completely to the contrary.
And this also seems like an emergent property of human beings.
Yes, humans in particular. I think animals do it to an extent, but I think our ability to abstract and our ability to build technologies based on our abstractions and like what we're doing now is fundamentally different than anything that our biosphere has done over the last 4 billion years. I think we're pretty special, and I have no problem saying that. Like, I think we're the most interesting thing in the universe.
Yeah, I think so. Well, known universe.
Known universe, yeah.
I think it's quite possible.
Yeah.
A little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but I don't think that we're ever going to recognize what that thing is until we actually really appreciate what we are.
You glossed over this problem back.
Sure.
Why don't you believe in anything?
Oh, so I think it's not possible for like I guess people want to say the universe is infinite in size, and I don't know what that means. I think it just is a placeholder of like we don't understand. So infinity helps in certain theories of physics, like to actually make mathematics tractable, but to say it's actually like the physical thing, to me is it doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense because I think if you assume you know, like there's an infinity of things that can exist, and that infinity of things exists somewhere, right? Like so you have like Mark's mathematical universe hypothesis, all mathematical objects exist somewhere, and obviously there's like an infinite number of them. It doesn't actually explain anything about here. Or like why do we have the things that we have in this universe? And I think what infinity is it's a feature of humans' imagination to define the space of what's possible. And it physically exists as the boundary of that space, but it doesn't physically exist out there as a real physical thing. Like there is no infinite space, there's no infinite possibilities of the multiverse. Those are abstractions that exist in human minds that allow us to think about how the world works and reason in what we can actually construct here as far as theories we understand or think.
But the concept of infinity, there is no, if the universe is not infinite, then the universe has a defined boundary. So what's beyond that boundary?
I don't know.
That's weird, right?
Yes.
It seems like maybe that's what infinity is.
Yeah. So I think we could be saying the same. Like I think about it sort of like there's a boundary that is like the physical size of the universe, the physical stuff in the universe, and there's another boundary which is part of that physical boundary, but it's like the things that we can imagine. And the things we can imagine, like these can possibly be physically real. And then there's another boundary that we can't even imagine. I don't even know if there's stuff out there that's like beyond that. And like you can't even talk about it because you can't even imagine that.
Right. It's one of the most complex theories that I've ever heard was the concept of in the center of every galaxy there's a supermassive black hole. And that going to that supermassive black hole, you go into another universe.
Yeah, these are kind of interesting and fun. And kind of,
But like,
very
what do you say?
Yeah, I know. I mean, well, there's a lot of theories about like the multiverse, and I think they're intellectually interesting. And they bring interesting philosophy into physics, but I don't know that I can assign physical realism to anything that we can't observe directly. Mm-hmm. And I would rather take the mathematics and like in the theories of physics themselves. Like I do these thought experiments about like the theoretical physics of theoretical physicists. It's like if I were outside of myself and I was watching what I was as a theoretical physicist writing down equations equations and like trying to describe a world, what would those mathematical objects look like as physical things? And so this to me is the perspective that I find much more productive, because I don't think people have looked at that through that lens at what mathematics is. Like we tend to take the Euclidean, and like the Plato's cave type paradigm from ancient Greeks, that like there's a perfect world of forms and like we're just seeing the shadows of like this perfect reality. And I think the universe is constructing itself, and mathematics is a particular thing our universe has constructed that enables things to be possible that couldn't be possible without mathematics existing.
The people that are proponents of this concept of infinity that do believe in it, when you steel man that, what's the best argument for it?
Well, I think the idea, it's kind of like what you're saying, like if you take the limit, like it actually is consistent with our equations to assume that, like the universe could be infinite, or the time in the future could be infinite. And to them, I think it seems like it has some possibility to it. But it always seems to me to be a placeholder of like the boundary. And so, but also like, it depends on what you think is satisfactory. So if you want to believe in multiverse hypothesis, then there's sort of an infinite number of realities, you find that more explanatory to assume that everything exists. And therefore, like, we're just one thing in that space. Some people find that satisfactory. I don't find that satisfactory because it doesn't explain why we exist. And I want to explain us. I want to know what we are. Yeah, but it's a hard set of questions around infinity and mathematics, just generally. And I find it really fun to think about.
The multiverse to me is the most bizarre because there's no evidence that it exists, but it's a concept that's universally it's shared a lot, and it's a lot, and it's some people they'll pontificate on it, but you might be thinking about nonsense.
Right. So I think another reason I don't really think infinity is like a real construct is like I really am a big fan of Nick Jizzen. He's a physicist that's kind of arguing that real numbers are real. And what he means by that is like if you want to compute a real number and like we use real numbers like they require infinite precision to compute all the digits. And you're assuming a lot of resource for a universe built on real numbers, because basically it means anything that you look at with infinite resolution. And it's probably the case, especially if you think the universe is constructed, or even if you believe the simulation argument, that there has to be granularity there, because the universe has to do these things in finite time with finite resource. There isn't evidence that there's infinite time or infinite resource in our universe. And therefore, like, if you want something to actually be physically real, the universe has to be able to implement it. The universe cannot implement infinity in finite time. It just can't do it.
Finite time.
Yeah, and I think time is finite. I think time is a resource, and I think time is part of the mechanism that the universe is actually constructing itself. The universe is constructing itself from moment to moment, and we persist over a certain set of moments. But yeah, that's why I said I'm a presentist. I don't even know if I agree with myself on this. Like, I disagree with myself on a lot of things, and I might change my mind tomorrow. But it's like the idea only the present exists, so the past is rolled up in the present. Like, I think that they're like the past structure exists in the present, and the present is now constructing the next moment, right? And so, but the space, like the future is expanding, it's getting larger and larger and larger, because there's so much combinatorial structure, like all these past histories now entwined in a modern structure, that they can now intertwine to make the future bigger and bigger.
And this is from our current observable position.
Yes.
And then you go,
which is the only one we can talk about.
And you expand out to all the universes.
Yeah. So it's interesting to say that, because most theories of physics are actually constructed with the observer living outside the universe. Right. So like Newton had this conception of, like you could take a God's eye view, a literal God's eye view of the universe, and describe it objectively from the outside. And all of our theories of physics have this problem. This is why quantum mechanics is so existentially hard, because it confronts us with the fact that, like, if you have a physics where the observer is not part of the physics, it leads to really big problems with how we structure the theories of physics. And and this is why there's no one quantum theory. There's a bunch of interpretations of quantum experiments, and people call those different theories of quantum mechanics. But there's no like accepted standard interpretation that like people would point to and say, this is the theory of quantum mechanics. There's interpretations, and I think they're great. There's great theories. It's great, like amazing, insightful stuff. But it's not quite on the same footing as like general relativity, which is like a widely accepted theory that describes a set of observations. So, but it's because quantum mechanics has observers, and people don't know how to interpret the observer. And we don't have physics that was built from starting from observers like us, things like us that are constructing theories of physics. How do we think about the world and put us inside the world? And I think a theory of life has to have that property. It has to account for the fact that we live inside the universe. We cannot escape the universe. We're always going to be physically stuck here. This is it. This is all we got. And like describe life. Like what is the observational horizon we interact with, and how did we get structured out of that space? Like why do we exist the way we do within that space?
I do.
I don't know, but I like the why questions. I was also told by like a really prominent senior physicist not to ask why. I was like, why should we not ask why? Like you should ask the why questions. They're good questions.
Isn't it interesting that some people that are at the top of the field still have these bizarre ideas that you just completely disagree with?
Yeah. Do I find that bizarre? No, I've had that since. It's very funny because I think sometimes people are like, "Oh, Sarah, you're really successful in your career now. You can see these things." And I'm like, I think I've been saying these things since I was like, I don't know, forever. Like I haven't changed. My personality hasn't changed. I just I'm deeply curious, and I want to understand things. And I think you have to be able to follow what you rationally think and what the evidence is telling you, and the questions you think are interesting to answer. And I think the thing that I guess I've done is like the questions I want to answer are not ones that people have really taken as seriously as I've taken them, because of the reasons that they think they're not answerable or they're already answered. And I just see this gaping hole in our understanding of reality that needs to be filled.
Well, listen, Sarah, I'm glad you're out there. I really, this is a really fun conversation. I really appreciate it. Tell everybody how they can see some of your work.
Sure. Yeah, I have a book out. It actually is out today. Called Life as No One Knows It, The Physics of Life's Emergence, where I talk about assembly theory and, like what's needed to solve the physics of life. And also really trying to motivate this experimental program that he is spearheading because I'm such a fan of it, to try to find aliens in the lab. So basically, like the idea here is we just want to get people excited about these problems and thinking about them more deeply, agreeing, or better yet, like having lots of debate and discussion about like the nature of life and how to think about it, and whether we can start an experimental program to really validate the ideas. So that's that. And I narrated the audio.
Fantastic.
Which
I love
was
it.
fun.
That makes me
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I was really like shy about doing it because some people like criticize my voice and like all the channels and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it.
stop reading the crap.
Thank you. But anyway, it's really fun. And it was deeply personal, so that was cool. And I'm on Twitter, X thing, and Instagram.
How does someone find you?
Sarah
Twitter?
O'Malley, there you can find me on
Instagram somewhere?
Alien Matter.
Alien Matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't use that one as much, but it's fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. It's
Train by day, Joey. Fucking podcast by night. All day.
Pleasure to meet you. Good. I'm quite thrilled to have you here. This is your book. It's called Tripped, not See Germany, the CIA, and the Dawn of the Cytodrome. First of all, how did you get involved?